All right, guys, welcome back to the Run It Back podcast. I am your host, Joy. Alongside with me, as always, is Wes. How has your weekend today been today, Wes?
Probably one of the best damn weekends of my life. Uh, you know, you and I got together over the weekend to do some in-person covering for our content for the channel
Yes, sir.
and the library account on Spotify. And on top of that, um, we got to witness greatness 2 days in a row. And it's great that we get to come together tonight and talk about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the results, although God Save the Queen wasn't really playing at the end of a victor, it was more the Mexican fans and the Mexican national anthem. It was a really good weekend. We still had, we were pretty much 2 for 2 on our predictions. But yeah, let's get into it. So today was the Spanish Grand Prix held in Barcelona, Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. So yeah, and overall, Wes, how did you feel about today's race?
I'm going to quote South Park here, Joy. Mercedes engineers, smart, smart, smart. Red Bull engineers, dumb.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty much the big headline, right? Like, I guess there was a quote that Crofty said, does history repeat itself? And it pretty much did, right? It was pretty much the same scenario in 2019 Hungary. I believe it's 2019. Yeah, it is 2019.
That is correct.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, that's pretty much the big headline, right? A big mistake by the Red Bull garage or the Red Bull engineers, the Red Bull strategists today. Pretty much, Max Verstappen was incredible. Took P1 into T1 at lap one, and so it was a dream scenario start for them. But let's get into it, Wes. Let's first start with the qualifying, right? Big story out of qualifying: Lewis Hamilton, 100th pole.
Yeah, it's quite historic, right? Never has anyone imagined 100 poles for any driver,
Right,
because Senna didn't do it, Schumacher didn't do it.
right,
And, we all knew where Lewis was. And prior to even 99 was already a lot,
right.
right? And for him to reach triple digits, especially at a time where he's still at his peak, and we're the generation, I guess, to see that's nothing short of amazing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And just for all the listeners, here's a little bit of preference. Lewis Hamilton now he's pretty much been the leader in qualifying in pole positions for the past couple seasons. He has 100 right now. Second place is Michael Schumacher with, I believe, 68. He only has 68 poles. So that tells you how great of a qualifying Lewis Hamilton is. I know George Russell is Mr. Saturday, but at at the very moment, Lewis Hamilton is pretty much the king of qualifying. But yeah, pretty much right behind him, Max Verstappen at Red Bull. Right, it was so close. It was within 1/10 of a second, but not fully, there for the pole. Valtteri Bottas comes in third, and then big surprise, Charles Leclerc. And then right behind him is Esteban Ocon, followed by Carlos Sainz, Ricardo, Perez, Norris, and Alonso. So, Wes, who was the biggest surprise for you in qualifying?
Esteban Ocon, no doubt about it. Not
Absolutely.
only did he split the Ferraris, he was just that much further up the line than his teammate Fernando Alonso. I believe that's three in a row,
That
right?
is that is three in a row. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've never seen Fernando get qualified like this. Perhaps he's struggling a little bit with the car, but yeah, it was very interesting to watch. But yeah, did you want to add on?
Yeah. Also, Charles Leclerc, right? Um, he managed to put the car in an area where I guess the trend would suggest that a McLaren would be there.
Right, right,
But lo and behold, it wasn't.
right. Absolutely. And by the way, I mean the top four positions should belong to Red Bull or Mercedes, right? And then unfortunately, Sergio Perez qualified in eighth, but Charles Leclerc was able to upstage him into fourth. But yeah, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Charles is driving the wheels off of that car, but so is Esteban, which is really good because some of these cars are really strong in qualifying. However, in the race, they look a little bit slower. But yeah, let's get into who was your biggest disappointment in the race, Wes. Not in the race, in the qualifying. I'm sorry.
I was about to ask. I was like, we're already jumping into the race. Um, I would probably say Lando.
Oh, okay.
Lando, and maybe Sonoda.
Nice. Okay.
Because for Lando, right? I maybe it is because we're in love with the concept of him being that much higher in the grid because of his form.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm one of those people that's fully invested in McLaren being the third best team on the grid. And of course, in order to secure that, you need to have performances that demonstrate as such.
Right.
Um, and of course, at a track like Circuit de Catalunya, where your grid position actually pretty much would determine more than half of what your race result would be,
Right.
it kind of is very discouraging to have the car not where you would want it to be, which is close as possible to the Mercedes and the Red Bull. As for Sonoda, I mean, again,
Yeah.
you're technically the first driver, and I felt like his post race interview did not help his cause at
Oh,
all
yeah. It did not. Yeah.
because he seemed like he's blaming
The team.
the car or
Right.
the team,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, dude, you know, how does Pierre Gasly, who's perceived to be the second driver on the team, be better than you?
Well, that's the
And it's
thing, right?
almost the same car.
Right. Right. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I was about to say, just for me, my biggest disappointment was just the AlphaTauri boys, for qualifying, right? Because Gasly was P12 and Sonoda was P16, and yeah, let's talk about it for a sec. Jensen Button did kind of call out Yuki Tsunoda, saying that a lot of the things that he said post quali, he should keep it behind doors, right? You don't want to put this out on the public because it makes the team look bad. And Franz Toss, the principal of AlphaTauri, is notorious for disliking drivers that immediately call out the team. And Franz Toss is not a guy to be messing around with, especially in that AlphaTauri or the Red Bull hierarchy. And so yeah, yeah, it was a bad decision for Yuki. I hope he learns from it. And so yeah, a lot of times, you're just not in the same performance as your teammate, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's all the car.
No, absolutely. And the thing that we're taught as people, right? Own up to your mistakes.
Right.
You would think that because Sonoda's in Formula One, he'd be able to do that.
Right.
What he needs to realize is that this is not Formula Two anymore.
Right.
You probably would have been able to get away with that at Formula Two, but you can't get away with that here in Formula One.
Yeah.
In any professional sport, right?
Right.
Not just Formula One, right? Like, think about the sport that we cover, boxing, and think about the major sports across the world. If a player were to be outspoken like that, that's going to cause problems for not only that athlete, but for that team as well. So, and the whole world is watching on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
He needs to be better. Yeah, he's a very emotional, very colorful character, and that's cool and all. But at the same time, it's like at some point, that's gonna actually hurt the team rather than give it flavor.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Wes. That was pretty much also I believe the second biggest story out of qualifying. But yeah, soon we'll talk about the race. But for now, we're gonna take a quick break, and yeah, we'll see you guys in a couple. Welcome back, guys, to the Run It Back podcast. We just took a small break. We recently just spoke about qualifying and the results and how we reacted to them. Now we're going to focus a little bit more on the race. And the race, well, it had mixed results, right? A lot of people on social media thought that the race was kind of boring. It was definitely, but then, Mercedes kind of threw that good old strategy, right? To kind of throw everyone off, and I believe it even caught Red Bull off guard. And so yeah, your thoughts, Wes, overall in the race.
I think we just witnessed greatness again. Doesn't matter if they're the quote unquote second best car on the grid. Um, you know, that all that talk about Red Bull being this, Red Bull being that, Mercedes just proved that that's BS, man.
Right.
And holy cow, that was like it. I mean, that's probably more legwork than Mercedes would have preferred to do,
Yeah.
right? Especially losing the position after the first turn.
Right.
But oh man, that was pure execution. And of course, if there's a person that can just push cars to their absolute limits, or maybe even past that, it's Lewis. And man, that was just great checkmate move on the behalf of the Brackley outfit.
Yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree. Like I said earlier in the podcast, history repeated itself. You would think that Red Bull would learn from their mistakes when Max is out in the front, and it was originally planned to be a two-stop race. Why would you try and stretch out a one-stop? It's never gonna work. Especially, Mercedes is just way too smart. They're always ready for any kind of scenario, and it surprised me actually. I did not expect Lewis to dart into the pits, especially usually we would get those radio messages that would warn us, oh, box. We didn't get any of that, and so I think this is why Mercedes is just on top, right? Whenever they plan on something, they're not gonna let anyone else know. Um, and of course, Lewis gives those subtle, false, I wouldn't say false information of his tires being dead, and then as he puts fastest laps. But yeah, overall, I think it was a okay race. I would rate it like a 3 out of 5. It definitely picked up a lot more towards the end. But yeah, I just thought Max was gonna run away with it. And yeah, I don't know what Red Bull were thinking. They knew that they weren't gonna last on those mediums, and they still pushed it. So yeah, it was an incredible race. I can't believe that it happened again, but hopefully it doesn't happen again. Hopefully Red Bull learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, to be fair to Mercedes, even before that surprise pit stop, it looked like they were on pace, or Lewis was at least on pace to catch Verstappen anyway.
Right.
Um, but of course, fresher tires, and maybe somewhere over the airwaves, Bono yelled "Hammer time,"
Yeah.
and Hammer time came through, and there was nothing Max could do about it. Uh, I remember the announcers kept saying "I'm coming for you" in Dutch over the course of the weekend.
Right.
Yeah, that didn't last long, did it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever the
Absolutely.
term was got overshadowed by Hammer Time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It was incredible. It was incredible, and then of course we had this something just I want to bring up. Something happened during the race that I've never seen before. I didn't even know this was a normal thing, but Total Wolf was on the radio to the FIA telling them that he was complaining about Mazepin slowing down Hamilton, and that was so unique because I never thought that Toto was also in like connected to a radio to the FIA. Of course, like he's a team principal. I get that they wouldn't communicate a lot, but I just thought it was more of there was some guy that is from the FIA right next to him that he calls upon whenever the team is unsatisfied. I just didn't think it was going to be a radio, but now I guess it all makes sense. But I think there should be more, a little bit more of that, if there are more.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was. And in a way, a part of me just feels like the whole competition is out to get Mazepin. So in a way, it just kind of
Yeah,
uh, made for good TV. But at the same time, like, yeah, if I was Toto Wolff, I'd be upset too.
yeah.
Um, Lewis's lead could have been a whole lot bigger had he had not gotten in the way of Lewis. So, I think Red Bull owes something to Mazepin a little bit there.
Right.
But at the same time, Mazepin did something that is pretty much not in the good graces of Formula One racing.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up because it seemed there for a second that Valtteri Bottas, teammate of Lewis Hamilton, was sort of ignoring team orders and made it a little bit more difficult for Lewis to pass him because he was fighting back. He was turning in to Lewis, and so I love that the camera cut straight to Toto Wolff and he was displeased. Of course, you would be, and yeah, I don't know what Bottas is doing. He's definitely not. If he continues to do this, I don't see why Toto would. Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting.
You know what? Maybe there will be two teams that are going to be doing a half season cut.
Hmm. Hmm.
I didn't like that either.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the thing,
I mean,
right?
I liked how the move that Hamilton did on Bottas because it goes to show that Hamilton's that much better.
Right.
But at the same time, he didn't have to do that, especially if
Yeah.
Even Bottas knew that Hamilton was faster than him.
Right.
Like, what did you all of a sudden think you were going to gain 10 seconds? All of a sudden, Bottas? No,
Well,
no,
yeah.
you weren't gonna win the race anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you
Absolutely.
held up Lewis.
Well, yeah.
So
I mean, not only that, like there were different strategies. Hamilton was going for the win. Bottas was, at best going for second. I mean, and Bottas, obviously is gonna. But that's the thing, right? That's the big argument. If you put Russell in there mid-season, I mean, there could be a difference, right? Like where Russell is gonna be contending for wins instead of second place and third place. So he might be a little bit more stubborn to deal with, whereas Valtteri, you kind of know where he's gonna finish up, and so yeah, it's a tough decision to call for Mercedes, but a
I would
good.
just do it. I would do it if Lewis locks it up a little bit early.
Oh yeah, absolutely, right? Yeah, I agree with you. If Lewis locks it up, and there's probably like 6, 7 races left, which I don't think that's gonna be. I think Max is gonna come back sometime. Uh, but yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that's an option that they're probably prepared to make. But yeah, Wes, real quick, biggest disappointment in the race.
Sonoda, no doubt about it.
Mm, yeah, I completely agree. I think yeah, he it just this is the season. Oh, it is the season. This is a weekend. He definitely wants to forget. Unfortunately, the next track is considered to be the most difficult track in the Formula One calendar in Monaco. So hopefully he can turn it around. Maybe he likes Monaco a little bit better, but yeah, all around it was just a disappointing weekend for Sonoda.
Yeah. Overall disappointing weekend. The comments didn't help, and then of course, it's about the cherry on top. His car dies in that newly profiled turn 10,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
and forcing a safety car.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I
So
mean that safety car
yeah,
did kind of help, bunch the pack back up, but yeah, I completely agree. It doesn't look good for Sonoda at the moment. He doesn't have the best starts. He doesn't have the greatest of starts as he's had in Formula 2 or Formula 3, but yeah, yeah, and yeah, the biggest surprise was for you.
Charles Leclerc,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
because he willed that Ferrari to P4. And man, I understand that, you know, Ferrari is on a growing and improving and competing type of year, but man, I think Leclerc is just pulling out wonders.
yeah,
And of course, I'm not here to slight Carlos Sainz or anything like that, but time and time again, Leclerc is proving that this is his team and that he is pivotal to Ferrari's success if they want to get back up there.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree. I completely agree. Like I said, right? I've always believed that Charles Leclerc was almost at that level of Max Verstappen if you give him a good car, a car that's good enough to challenge. But at the moment, yeah, he's right there. He's knocking on the door of a podium, and so that would be amazing for Ferrari. Even though we bash on Ferrari a lot in this show, um, I think it's good to see them climb back up. But yeah, that's pretty much it for our show tonight for at Run It Back podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Stay tuned for the No Decision podcast where we discuss Billy Joe Saunders versus Canelo and pretty much the biggest fights that are coming up in boxing and the boxing landscape. So, yeah, stay tuned. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.